What's up guys, the Codeholic is here and welcome to the fourth part of building an MVC framework using PHP. In this video, we're gonna implement the registration. We're gonna come up to simple ActiveRecord model syntax and we're gonna make a registration of the user in the database using password encryption, as well as we're gonna implement the session component and implement the flash session flash messages. Now I'm going to go to the core folder and right here create a DB model class, DB model. And this will be a model which will be a mapping. It will be much like an ORM model, object relational mapping, and it will map the user's model, user's class into database table. Actually, this will not map, but it's child class. So this will be a base ActiveRecord class, something like this. So this extends from model because this needs the features the model has. And the model has a couple of abstract methods right here, rules, for example, and we need to implement the rules inside the model. Okay, or we can make this model even abstract. Okay, and this DB model needs to have a couple of other things. So it needs to have table name, okay, and that should be also abstract. Okay, for this, let's make the class abstract class, and public, actually abstract public function table name, which must return string. Okay, and we're gonna have right here also save method, public function save, which will take the model attributes and save in the table name. Okay, I'm gonna change one thing right now. Let's go to the models and I'm going to extend my register model from DB model. Okay, and I have to implement the table name as well, and I'm going to also change the name of the register model. Okay, so I'm going to use PHP Storm's features, right click, refactor, rename, and I'm going to call it just user, and it will rename not only the class name but the file name as well and the usages of that class as a register model. So if I open this out controller right here, it's written user. Previously it was register model. Fine, and let's implement the method right here. That's going to be public function table name, which must return a string, and I'm going to return user. So this class is a mapping of the user table. All right, and we have this register, and this register basically will be much like calling a save method with probably some slight changes. I don't know, let's see. In the DB model, we have to implement the save. So this is, I think, the most important function to implement at the moment. So we have the table name, which will be this table name. We have the attributes, which will be these attributes or get attributes, how it's called. Okay, in the model we have, actually we don't have attributes. We don't have attributes, we are guessing the attributes from the rules. Okay, so we don't have it also in the user. So here's the thing. So we need to have an attribute list for the DB model. You know why? Because not all the attributes which are declared inside the class or which are declared in the rules right here should be saved in the database. For example, this confirm password. So it should not be saved in the database. And when we are about to implement the save method, we need a column list, a list of columns for that table in the database. Okay, so we have the table name and we need that column list as well. And like if we are building a very complex and complicated framework, I would suggest probably, okay, let's read the schema and read properties, read columns from that schema, from the table schema, but I'm not going to do this. So, and we're just going to make it easy. And I'm going to create right here one more abstract method, abstract public function attributes, okay, which will be an array, and this should return all the attributes, all the database column names, okay. And right here I'm going to call the attributes, and right here we have to make an insert. So of course the insert should happen using PDO, okay. So for this we need to call application app db prepare or db PDO prepare. Am I doing it correctly? Let's see. So, oops. PDO, yes, prepare. But I'm going to create a method which will be a shortcut for that method, something like this. So down below, I'm going to create public function prepare, and this will be available in every DB model. So that will just return application app db PDO prepare, and this will accept an SQL statement right here and pass it, pass it here. Fine. Then I'm going to call right here statement equals this prepare, or we can even make this static method, public static function prepare, and I'm going to call right here self prepare, pass down the SQL statement. And the SQL statement will be insert into, right here we need the table name. I want to insert in this table, and after this I need to specify the column names, and I also need to specify what will be the attributes. So in this case, for the user case, we're going to have first name, last name as column names, and we're going to specify also values will be the actual values, but we're going to bind the parameters to avoid SQL injection later. So we need to have bind parameters, named parameters, like first name, comma, then colon last name, and so on. And we have to generate this based on the attributes. Okay, so we have to do this like this. So I'm going to do right here another array params, which equals to something. I'm going to implement this right now, but we have this attributes array, and what we can do is that right here in this place we can implode, we can concatenate the attributes with comma. Okay, so I'm just gonna do a concatenation right here. Okay, implode. Okay, let's combine all the attributes with comma. Okay, and this will be first name, comma, last name, comma, and so on. Okay, and for params we need to put colon in front of every attribute, and then do the same thing right here. Okay, so first let me do the same thing right here. So right here implode, okay, passing down comma and params. Okay, and we just need to make each param to have colon in front of it. So for this I'm going to use array map, which will accept a callback fn, and right here we have the attribute, and right here we are gonna return colon and the attribute name, just like this. And the second argument of the array map, of course, is the attributes which we're going to map. So finally these params will give us an array where each attribute has colon in front of it, and we're creating this statement just like this. And after this we have the SQL statement. We can even dump and have a look at this. So just to make sure that we are following everything correctly, so I'm going to dump statement, params, and attributes right here. We just need to make sure that we are calling the save method, and we have to also implement these attributes in the user. Okay, right now we have to implement this method. So down below, maybe down below the rules, I'm going to implement that attributes. Okay, and which must return array, and I'm going to return from here the database column names that will be first name, last name, email, and password. First name, last name, email, and password. Okay, fine. Let's go to the auth controller, and right here we're calling register, and from register let's call this save. Okay, and let's just return whatever is returned from here. I'm gonna remove this, and let's just try to register user. Okay, so let's do it. So here's PHP MyAdmin, and we don't have any record in the database so far. Let's go to the register page, and I'm going to quickly fill up the form. Zura, for example, at example.com, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. Hit the enter, and here we have. So this is the keyword string, insert into user. Look at this. First name, comma, last name, email, and password. We're going to insert in these columns, and these are the parameters which we're going to bind. And right here we have this params array, and right here we have this attributes. So everything looks like as we want it. Okay, now let's go to the DB model, and we have to iterate over the attributes. Okay, so for each attributes as attribute, and right here I'm going to bind the value. So on statement bind value, and I'm going to bind colon attribute, which will be the attribute name, actual attribute name right here, the named parameter name, let's call it like this, and the value will be this, and whatever will be the attribute. Okay, this first name, this last name, and so on. After this we call on statement execute, and if this doesn't throw any error, any exception, this means that the user was successfully inserted, and we can just immediately return true. If this returns some kind of error, we can return false. We can put this in a try catch statement, but let's see if this actually works so far. So I'm going to quickly reload the page, and actually I want to see some kind of message when the registration happens. So success. So I will see success if everything goes okay. So save returns true. So we should see success. Okay, reload the page, and here we have an error. Base table or view not found, MVC framework user. So I think it should be called users. So let's go to the user. Right here it should be called users. Let's reload once again, and here I see success. If I go to the database, right here I see all the records made. So first name, last name, email, status is 0 by default, created it, and password. So we have to do a few things. First, we have to encrypt our password, right? Second is to assign the status manually. Okay, so how to do this? Let's do the password encryption first. So for this, I'm going to do the following. Before actually I call this save, I'm going to pass down. You know what? I'm going to change a couple of things right here. So let's go to the auth controller. Instead of register, I'm going to call it save. Okay, I'm going to rename this also from register model into user. Okay, so user is new user, then we're loading data in the user, validating the user, and calling the save on the user. However, I'm going to override that save method from the DB module inside the user. Let's call it save. And right here, I'm gonna encrypt the password. Okay, so how to do this? I'm gonna call password hash function. So this password equals password hash, and I'm going to specify the plain password, this password, and I'm going to specify also the encryption method. And for now, I'm going to use password default. Okay, so let's use the default encryption method. And right here, instead of the save, we need to call parent save. Okay, so this should already make the password to be encrypted and saved just like this in the database. Okay, fine. Let's now go to the registration page, and if we just quickly reload this, we should see second user, and here we see, and the password for that user is encrypted. Okay, the next thing is to set the status manually, and the other thing is to make the registration unique by email. So we should not be able to register with the same email, right? So let's do the password thing first. So right here we are making an insert of the user, and we need to specify what should be the password, right? And probably we should, not the password, sorry, status. And probably we need to do this in the same way like we did for the password. So for example, we can specify right here, we don't have status, by the way, declared, and we can say that this status is, for example, false by default, or we can have couple of statuses, let's say like this. So I'm going to create constants. For example, const status to be inactive, which will be 0 by default, status active, and deleted. Let's do these three statuses: status active and status deleted. Okay, active will be 1, deleted will be 2. And right here I can just specify, can I specify the constant? I don't remember, to be honest. So status inactive. No, it doesn't work. So we can make this uninitialized for now, or we can just assign 0, just like this. That should be integer. That's the thing. Maybe we can assign even constant. I don't remember, to be honest. Self status inactive. Yes, this actually works in PHP 7.4. Fine. So right here, we can even assign that this status is self status inactive. So using this approach, we're assigning the status 0 to the user. By default, it automatically takes this 0. So just to make sure that this actually works, maybe we can change this into status deleted or status active and refresh it right here to see what's the status in the database. It is still 0. So that probably happens because in the attributes right here we don't have status, and that's why simply it is not inserted in the database. So in the attributes we need to write that there exists status also in the database. Let's refresh it and have a look in the PHP My Admin, and here we see status 2. Okay, perfect. So let's just change this back into inactive, where we know that this works, and okay, after this, let's just delete all the records from here, and we need to, what's going on? It wasn't deleted. Delete. Yes. Okay, and right now we need to make sure that we won't be able to register a user with the same email address. So that's, I think, very tricky thing which we need to definitely consider. Okay, so let's try to register a user once again, and here we have one record. Status is 2. I don't know why status was taken as 2. It's inactive. Inactive right here as well. I don't know. Let's try it once again. Okay, yeah, 0. It was probably cached. Okay, one user was deleted. Okay, now let's go to the model, okay? And right here we have these validation rules, and we have to come up and implement a new rule. And I'm going to call it rule unique, okay? So unique. And let's go to the user, and when we have declared these rules, we need to specify for email maybe one more rule, but this should be a sub-array notation, where we have to specify the first argument to be the rule name, and this will be self rule unique. The second argument needs to be some kind of identifier where this should be unique. So obviously, if we're building a framework, we need the possibility to make this unique maybe not only inside the user's table, but in some other table as well. So at least we need to specify right here the class name, the model class name in which, or the table name in which it might be unique. But it's better to specify the class name simply because if we need the table name, we can take the table name by just calling the table name, right, on the class. However, if we have just class name, it's if we just have the table name, it's very hard to guess what will be the class name. So right here, I'm going to specify the class, and in this case, in our case, it will be just self class. So this field must be unique for that database model class, and this is the user class, and we know that the user class has email, so this will be checked against the email column in the database. Okay, and of course we have to implement this. So I'm going to go now to the model, scroll down to the, where is it, validate, right here. Okay, and we're going to write one more if statement for another rule. So if the rule name equals rule unique, then we have to do a couple of things. So first we have to take the class name. Okay, class name equals rule class. Okay, second is that we need to take the actual attribute. So here's the thing. So from the user, we might also specify that, hey, I want the email to be unique in this class in first name column, for example, attribute to be first name. Okay, just like this. And this should be also possible. Okay, so right here in the model, we can take the attribute. It doesn't make things that much complex, so we can implement this. So from rule, we take the attribute, but if it's not presented there, we just take the current attribute. Okay, and I'm going to call it just unique attribute, just like this. And we need, of course, the table name as well. This will be on the class name to call table name method. And after this, we're going to make a select. So select everything from the table name where that unique attribute equals to the value, the email value. And if this returns something, this means that there already exists user with this value, and we should add an error to the errors array. We should call this add error method. So let's just make a query. So application app DB. On DB, I can call prepare. So we don't have prepare method on DB. So let's just do this. So I'm going to quickly open database PHP, scroll at the very bottom, maybe not at the very bottom, but right here, I'm going to create a public function prepare, which will accept an SQL and simply return this PDO prepare, just to make things a little bit easier. So right here on DB, I'm going to call prepare. I'm going to pass an SQL select everything from, and we're going to specify the table name. So we're going to select everything from the table name where the attribute, the unique attribute, which will be in our case email. So where the unique attribute equals to some named parameter. Okay, so we can write here colon and attribute, just like this, and or we can even write colon and the unique attribute, even like this. And this finally gives us the statement, and we need to bind the value on that statement. Okay, on statement bind value, this will be colon and the unique attribute name, and the value will be the value. Okay, fine. I think we're gonna make it easier and just write here an attribute. Okay, just like this, it's easier. And then on the statement we just call execute, right? And after this we can call on statement fetch, and we want to fetch single object, and this gives finally the record. And if that record actually exists, then we're going to add an error. So if the record exists in the database, then I'm going to call this add error on the attribute, and the rule name will be unique. Okay, and we need to go to the errors array. Let's scroll down, error messages array right here, and add for unique the message something like record with this, let's create a variable right here, field already exists. Okay, just like this. And we need to pass down, of course, the field name from here. That should be what it should be. That should be rule, but the rule doesn't have the field name. So maybe we just need to specify right here an associative array where field is the attribute. Okay, let's try this. Let's go to the browser. We already have actually one user with this email, and I'm gonna reload the page, and I hope I will see an error. Here I have it. So record with this email already exists, which is fine. Okay, so we have implemented this one as well, the rule unique, and now we can already show a success page to the user when the user actually registers. Okay, so how to do this? Let's go to the controller right here, and this registration works fine. So now we need to focus on this area. And when the user successfully registers, we need to redirect the user to the home page, and we need to show a success message there. So first, let's implement the redirecting to the home page. And for this, I can use the header method and specify that the location needs to be / for example, which means the home page. But I'm gonna actually create a redirect method in the response class. So let's just do like this: application app response redirect. Okay, this method, and we're gonna specify the path, of course. This redirect method doesn't exist, so we have to add this at the method. Right here it should be public, and I'm going to just paste right here and specify the string, which will be the URL. Okay, so now redirect is already implemented, but before we do the redirect, we have to put some message in the session and display that on the after redirect. More specifically, this data which will be inserted in the session needs to be deleted after one request. So we have to actually implement the session flash messages. And I'm going to explain this once again. The idea behind the session flash messages is that you put some message in the session which is only there for one request. So as soon as you put there, and as soon as you make one request, and that one request will be redirect. Okay, it is there and it will be displayed, but as soon as we make one more request, it is not presented there. So this is very often used for messages like displaying the successful message after redirect, or displaying successful message after checkout on the shopping cart system. You put the message there, redirect user, it is displayed as soon as the user is redirected, but as soon as the user moves to another page, it disappears. So let's do this, and for this we will need a session class, session component. So in the core, I'm going to create session, and the only thing I know so far is that I will need setFlash method, which will accept a key and a message, and we will need getFlash method, which will accept a just key. Okay, and we have to actually implement this. So we need to, first of all, we need to start this session. So whenever we want to set something inside the session, we need the session to be started. So for this, I'm going to create a constructor, and in the constructor, I'm going to start the session. Okay, fine. Then in the session, I cannot actually put something in the key because that may conflict to normal session. Okay, so I want to have a unique key for flash messages. So I'm going to have something like this. For example, flash_messages. Okay, so even this can be repeated, even this can be like set as a normal session later, but let's just don't pay attention to this. Okay, so we're just talking about the idea. So inside the session flash messages, for the given key, I'm going to set the message. Okay, and actually I'm going to do the following. First of all, these flash messages will be repeated in multiple places in this class, so I'm going to create a constant for this. Okay, so let's make it protected constant flash key. That will be flash messages. Okay, fine. Then right here we need self flash key. So when the flash message is already set, if there already exists some flash messages, we need to delete that flash messages. Okay, we have to do like this, and I'm going to do following. So in the constructor, I'm going to take all the flash messages, self flash key. This will be all flash messages. I'm going to iterate over these flash messages. I'm going to take out the key and the flash message. Actually, it was written already there. So I need key and flash message. And I'm going to mark that flash message. So mark to be removed. Okay. So the constructor will be called whenever we make the request. So at the beginning of the request. And actually, I'm going to create an instance of the session in the application to show how it will be. So let's go to the application. Right here, I'm going to create a session property, and right here I'm going to create session equals new session. Okay, as soon as the application constructor is called, and that happens in the index PHP, then the session constructor will be called, and it will go through all the session messages which are already there, and we need to mark them to be removed. But when do we need to actually remove? So we need to remove at the end of the request. So because if the flash messages are there, we probably need to use them in the current case, in the current request, and it needs to be there. But as soon as the request is done, we need to remove them so that they should not be available for the next request. So I hope I explained it. If not, just keep watching, you will understand. So I'm going to create right here a destruct. So construct is when the object is created, destruct is when it's destroyed, and right here we need to iterate over marked to be removed So I'm not going to write all the long lines of code, but right here we need to iterate over all the marked to be removed flash messages and just remove them. Okay, and in the layout, let's go to the layout in the main right here, down below right here maybe. I'm going to create an alert, alert success. Okay, and right here I just need to display the message. So let's assume that we're gonna set the flash message with the key success. So PHP if on application app session get flash for the success key, if it is there, then we're going to display this alert PHP and if right here, and right here inside this alert I'm going to actually display the message. So I'm going to change this using use. Okay, this use was written right here, but I'm going to move this use at the very top right here. Okay, and we're gonna just print that information. So if something exists inside this session for the given key, let's take it and print. Okay, so getFlash doesn't return anything at the moment. That's why we see this red underline. But if we go to the auth controller, right here, we need to call application app session set flash, and the key will be success, and the message will be thanks for registering, something like this. And we should see that message when we will be redirected. Okay, so let's go to the session and actually implement these methods. Okay, so right here we need to mark the session, the flash message, to be removed. And I'm going to actually change the set flash message in the following way. So each of the message will be an array, and the value will be the actual message, but the remove property will be by default set to false. Okay. Then right here in the constructor, so imagine that the session is absolutely empty. So we call the set flash, okay, and we redirect user. As soon as the user is redirected, this code starts execution. So we get flash messages, we're gonna iterate over the flash messages and mark each flash message to be removed. Removed, or let's just call it remove, okay? So remove equals true. Okay, and after this, if we just print the whole flash messages, we should see that this particular flash message needs to be removed. Okay, so let's just print right here all the flash messages, or let's just print session self flash messages. Okay, everything. So this won't be changed, and I'm going to show this why. Okay, why this won't be changed. So let's just change into 02, hit the submit button, and here we have a couple of errors. Undefined index flash messages. And that happens on the line 23. That's actually obvious, 23. Yeah, right here. That's actually obvious because there doesn't exist that key yet. So I'm going to put right here question mark, array. So if this is set, okay, if it is not set, let's take the empty array, and then we're going to iterate over the empty array. Okay, fine. Then down below, we need to, yeah, this will give us one more error probably. Okay, let's just try. This will give us one more error. Yeah, on line 30. So what we need to do is that on session for giving key, let's just assign flash messages. So our main idea is that to get the flash messages array, iterate over those and mark them removed, and then set back to the flash messages. And now if just print this, we see that this is an empty array. However, it should not be empty because we are setting something. Okay, so first in the auth controller, the set flash is called. Okay, let's just dump something right here. Here. Okay, something is wrong. Something is wrong. Here's the thing. So we set the flash, we redirect, but we need to return or exit right here because the other code can be also executed. So let's try like this. No, it doesn't work. And this doesn't work because we have an exit in the constructor. So if we just remove this or remove the exit, just exit, let's have a look. Here we go. So this is the flash messages which is displayed right here. And this, thanks for registering, and its remove is set to false. So if I just keep refreshing the page, this flash will be still there. Okay, this is what I wanted to show to you. And the reason is that right here, when we get the flash messages, we are actually modifying right here the copy of the array, not the actual array. Okay, so in order to modify the actual array, we have two options. First is that right here we get this as a reference, by reference. So I'm going to put this and symbol right here. And there is something wrong. Only variables can be passed by reference. Okay, we cannot take this by reference because it's a sub array, but we can take this flash message by reference right here. Okay, so if I just print this, you see that it changes right here and adds that end symbol. And right now it was changed into true. Okay, remove true. And so using this approach, basically, we are now able to implement the destruct method correctly to actually delete all the flash messages which has remove right there true. Okay, I hope this makes sense. I'm going to quickly re-explain right now. So we get the all flash messages. So then we iterate over the flash messages and just mark each of the flash message to be removed. And then we have this modified flash messages array where we set the remove true and we set back this into session. After this, we need to iterate over the flash messages. Actually, I'm going to do the same thing. So let me just copy and paste this code. Okay, flash messages equals to this, iterate over those. And if the flash message remove equals true, we are going to call unset flash messages for the given key. Okay, and finally we have these flash messages which will have maybe the keys to be removed, but the keys also maybe not to removed, because when we mark something to be removed and redirect the user, on that request we might set some other session which should not be removed. Okay, so that's why we set right here to be removed true, and right here we set this false. So after this, we're gonna the session basically will be cleared up, all the flash messages will be removed which needs to be actually removed. So if I just refresh the page, I don't see anything right here. This happens maybe because I don't print anything also. But if I just print something right here, for example, session self flash key, this will give me an empty array. Okay, so the only thing what we need to implement right now is this get flash. So I'm going to return from session self flash key for the given key for value. Okay, and if that doesn't exist, let's return false. Okay, okay, this looks fine. Let's just remove this and have a look if everything is okay. Let's go to the register and quickly fill up the form. So Zora 3 at example .com 1111111. Hit the enter, and here we see the flash message. Thanks for registering. However, if I refresh the page right now or just move to another page, this disappears. Here we go. So this is the approach which is used in every framework, the flash messages. Of course, my implementation might be very poor compared to these modern frameworks, but you get the idea. So we set something, then we get the something, and we need to clear up that flash messages whenever it is necessary also. Okay, let's do one more thing which I noticed on the registration. So the first name, last name, email, password, confirm password, these are not actually user-friendly texts. So these are the actual attribute names, and we have to make them to be user-friendly texts. So for this, let's go to the model, and I'm just thinking at the same time. So we have that. Where do we have that attributes array? So this is probably in the DB model. Right here we have that attributes. Okay, and what I want to do is that I want to specify, I want to have a labels array as well, where each attribute corresponds to some label. Okay, so if I go to the models right here and I just create an empty array, for example, public function labels, which will return an array, and by default I'm going to return an empty array also. And if I just now go to the field class, okay, form field class, right here when we set the label we specify the attribute, but I want to specify the label. So this model labels for the given attribute, this attribute. So I want to get the label for the given attribute, and I think that this will give me an error right now because it is not specified. I have not set up that, and if the attribute is not presented in the labels array, as a fallback we can specify, okay, in this case let's take the attribute itself. Okay, in this case it will work as it was working before. However, if we go to the user and override the labels method and specify right here that hey, for the first name attribute, this should be the user-friendly text, first space name. Okay, and let's duplicate this. For the last name it should be last name. For email it should be email, and let's duplicate this. For password it will be password, and for password confirm it will be just the text confirm password. Okay, fine. In this case we should see the user-friendly texts. However, we don't see these for the confirm password because it's called confirm password, just like this. Refresh, and here we see. So these are user-friendly texts, and this is how generally the form should look like. And I'm going to do one more fixing. If I just click the submit, okay, let's fill up something. Okay, so email will be, actually I'm gonna leave the email, and I'm just gonna mess up the passwords. Okay, so this field must be the same as password, and this password actually is the attribute name. Right here we also need to display the label, not the password but the label, not the attribute name but the attribute label. Okay, and the same thing basically will happen about the email. So if I just try to use the same email, right here, record with this email or already exists. So in this case, it's not a big problem. This is uppercase email, this is the lowercase. User can actually understand, but the attribute name can be something else, underscore email or my email or whatever it is. This is the attribute name which should not be displayed to the user. So we should always have user friendly texts for any attribute, for anything basically which is displayed to the user. So let's quickly go to the model, and when we are displaying the errors that happens in the add error, I think right here, so we get the message and we actually run the replace. So params key value and replace. So let's actually think, if we just have a look at the validate and just have a look at the email area. So the field is the attribute, but instead of attribute, maybe we need to pass these labels for the given attribute. So, and this might not exist again. So if inside the labels there doesn't exist for the user, and I'm going to comment this, we're going to have big problems. The record with this something which is not presented there, and probably it even shows some kind of error behind. No, it doesn't show, but it is not presented there, and in this case we just need to show the attribute name itself. So I'm going to create, we have that attributes method, so I'm going to quickly find this attributes method. It is not presented here. Model. So the model doesn't have attributes. Model has labels. So I think that attributes might be added in the model as well. But let's do the labels first. So labels, and actually I'm going to call it get label for the given attribute, and this will return if these labels for the given attribute returns something. If not, let's return the attribute itself. And I'm going to use get label right here down below, this get label for the given attribute, and I'm going to use this in the field as well. Model get label, we specify this attribute and we don't want this anymore. Okay, let's refresh the page. Okay, something is wrong. Record with this email already exists, and these display names are not correct. Get label, these labels, this attribute, something is wrong. Yeah, I know what's wrong. This is commented out. Refresh, and here we see. So right here, record with this email already exists, and the email is uppercase, which means that this is the attribute label. And if I call just this one, if I call like your email, for example, so this will be your email. So we are taking the attribute label. And right here, we still have password, and we should have uppercase password. So let's quickly have a look at the how we're actually passing that thing. I think I know the reason, because that comes from the rules, and inside the rules we don't have the field, so match. So this is the thing, match. So confirm password, match the password, and we need to take the password label. So let's go to the, let's actually do it right here. So match, and I'm going to update the rule. So rule match equals this get label for attribute, and we just pass the same rule. Let's have a look. Okay, strange. The field must be this. Okay, strange. Yeah, my mistake. It should not be attribute, it should be rule match. Rule match, just like this. Here we go. This field must be the same as password. So these are very minor things, but even from this we can learn a lot of things. So we need to always think what we are displaying to the user. So very often I see that the ugly messages can be displayed to the user, and we need to think about it in general, what we are going to display to the user. User is not developer. User cannot understand every single word he sees on the screen. Even the error messages should be very user-friendly. Okay, I think the next thing right now is to implement login and have some protected routes, so that on specific route, only specific user who is authenticated just can have an access. Okay, let's do this. That's the end of this part. In the next part, we're going to implement a login as well as make some improvements of existing code.